everyone, and today we're going to talk about illuminated letters and how to draw an illuminated letter. So an illuminated letter looks like this. And they were really popular in the Middle Ages, and that's where they came from, as they started showing up in the Middle Ages on important history documents and religious documents. You could still see illuminated letters at the start of chapter books or on other important papers. So today we're going to start with our very basic illuminated letter. So you're going to get a sheet of paper, and I'm just using pencil and crayon. You can use whatever materials you have. And I'm going to start by just drawing my letter. So let's say I do the letter A. I'm going to start by just drawing your letter. And what I would like for you to do is to draw the first letter of your name. That would make the most sense. So I'm going to start with my letter, and that's the inside of my A. And I would make your letters a bit of a block letter. You can add a fancy decorative swoosh to it if you want to. So now that you have your A, then you're going, or your letter, whichever letter you choose to do, then you're going to start decorating. And your decorations can be as simple or as detailed as you want. The more detailed, the better, especially for an illuminated letter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bit of a frame around my letter. And so I'm going to use a ruler. You don't have to use a ruler, but I'm going to use a ruler and draw kind of a little box around my letter. Because usually illuminated letters are done in a square or a box or something that shows the first of a chapter. All right, and then I'm going to start decorating. And so let's say I'm going to make a floral leafy pattern here. Let's say I draw a leaf, add some swirls. And the more detail, remember, the more detail you do, the better it's going to look. So I'm going to overlap some of my swirls. Some of them I'm going to have going behind. That's completely up to you. And I'm just going to add some pretty decorative pieces coming out. I find that swirls look more formal than trying to draw regular vines. And so if you're trying to make it look more like a regular illuminated manuscript piece, they were fairly formal. So as I go, I'm just going to draw and put some leaves floating around. And again, I'm overlapping some of my edges, but I don't want to completely cover up my A or your letter, whichever letter like I said, whichever letter you decide to do. I don't want to completely cover it up, so I don't want to do so much that you can't see it and you can't tell what letter it is. So once I've added add a few leaves in here as well. Let me put a leaf right there. And I just want like floating in the wind leaves. If you want your leaves to be attached to a vine, that's fine too. Then I can start coloring. And the first thing I want to do is I want to trace my letter. I'm going to trace it with a Sharpie. You do not have to. You can trace it with a black colored pencil or black crayon. whatever you have, but I want my letter to really stand out. So I'm going to trace it like that. So now that I've traced it, then I can start coloring. And traditionally they would use a lot of gold leaf. Obviously I don't have gold. So to make my letter stand out, maybe I would use this pretty yellow. It's called goldenrod. If you have like a gold colored pencil or a gold crayon and you want to use a gold, that's fine too. But either the letter or some of the decoration around the letter would be a gold color. And then I can, because I did mine on blue paper, I can just leave my background blue. If you did yours on white paper or a different color paper and you want to add a background color, please do. Remember, the more detail you do, the better it's going to look. I'm going to use purple for my vines. I'm just going to trace over all my lines. And there we go. That's my illuminated letter. Now to add an extra step to it, to make it really look very finished and extra, is I could define my border. I can even draw and decorate the border around my letter. So if I wanted to, I'm going to, and my Sharpie's about to die, but I'm going to define my border like this. And then on the outside, you can come up with whatever type of pattern you want. You can use simple colors. You can use detailed line. You can even do more patterns inside your letter if you want. I know in the Celtic book, the Book of Kells, some of the letters were outlined in red first and then filled in with gold. So I could add just a red line going down. Because the middle of your letter, you don't need to do a whole lot of like crazy pattern in the middle of your letter. You still want your letter to look like a letter. So, and then a border around the outside. And y'all, keep it simple. If you're not very good at the swirly lines, do a simple pattern project. So as we make our border around the outside, keep it simple. If you are good at doing a swirly pattern, by all means, you may try it. I'm just keeping my lines simple, generic, diagonal lines going back and forth for my patterns. And most of the time, if you're doing a border, the pattern is going to be the same on both sides. So if I do lines on one side going one direction, on the other side, on the opposite border, I need to do similar lines. So that's what I'm doing here, making all my lines. And then again, I just need to do a pattern or something across the top and the bottom of it. So maybe I start with dots. And try and space them out right. Mine's a little close together on one side, but try and space them out evenly. And you could just leave it at that. You could add another step to it and add like a line on the inside. And I'm going to use a color from the inside picture just to help tie it together. So I'm going to use green from the inside to create a kind of a rectangular shape or line between my dots. And just color them in. And then coloring in my circles and coloring in the other circles and the lines on the side. And y'all, that's pretty much what you need to do to create this beautiful piece. And the more pattern you use, if you go back and look at them, they are very, very detailed. So the more pattern you use, as long as it is neat and clean and well done, the better it's going to look. You don't need to worry about coming up with lots of new patterns. You can use similar patterns that you've used before, but keep it neat looking, keep it clean. And that's it. I hope y'all have fun.